Hello, this is Jay Shepard from Arkansas State University. Today we're going to cover some major chord shapes and inversions and sus-chords. The first thing you need to know is that these chords are built out of scales. The major chords that we'll be studying first are built out of the major scale. It'd be imperative to learn a major scale pattern first to aid us in our identification of each of the notes that we're going to use to build these chords. So let's learn a E major scale in 2 octaves in open position. It looks like this. Okay, so what you need to do is play the scale again, but 1 note at a time. And you need to say what scale degree or number of the scale each note is. So the first one would be 1, the F sharp would be 2, the G sharp is 3, A is 4, B is 5, C sharp is 6, D sharp is 7, and E is 8 or 1 because they're the same note. You can do the same thing for the second octave. 1, 2, 3, A is 4, B is 5, C sharp is 6, D sharp is 7, and E is 1 again. So look at the end of the example at this E major chord we have. The reason the notes are what they are is because each note is either a 1, 3, or 5 of that E major scale that we have. The first note, of course, is 1. It's that low E. The second note on the A string, that B, is a 5. Then we have another 1 on the D string, the E. We have a G sharp on the G string, that's the third, or 3. Then the B is 5 again. And then the high E is another octave. So it gives us a nice voicing of an open E major chord. You're going to want to take a note of this chord and be able to make this chord very quickly to be able to do what we're going to do next with it. So to do that, practice placing the fingers in different orders. So like try from low to high. Then try placing the fingers from high to low. So you want to put the first finger down first, then the third finger, then the second finger. You know, and then try them in any other order you can think of. This will help you find the chord and gain some more dexterity and feel for the instrument. The second thing you want to do is to play this chord without the aid of your first finger. So your third finger is going to play the low B on the A string. Your fourth finger is going to play the E. And then your second finger is going to play the C sharp. Notice I don't have the first finger working anymore. That's because it's about to become a bar. What a bar does, it takes the whole chord form and moves it up however many frets you want. Let's look at it on the 5th fret. So this would make a new chord. Notice the shape is exactly the same as the E bar chord, or as the E open chord, but it's just been moved up 5 frets or 5 half steps. So instead of an E, we have an A, because it's up 5 half steps. Let's go through and make a bunch of bar chords 1 half step apart from the E. So we'll just go up 1 fret at a time. First we have the E. Then on the 1st fret we have the F. Then we have the F sharp on the 2nd fret. The G on the 3rd. A flat on the 4th. We have a chord on the 5th, B flat on the 6th fret, B natural on the 7th fret, C on the 8th fret, a C sharp or D flat on the 9th fret, D on the 10th fret, E flat on the 11th fret, and finally we're back to E on the 12th fret. So get those under your fingers, and I'll show you some tips here in a bit to make the bar chords a little easier on your fingers and your hand. Alright, let's learn a different scale shape. Let's learn an A major scale shape. So it goes like this. And just like the E example, we can use 1, 3, and 5 out of this scale to build an A open chord, which looks like this. We've got the low A on the bottom, 1. We've got the 5 for the E. Then we have the octave A atop. Then we have the 3rd on that B string, that C sharp, and then the E is the 5th again. So it's kind of the same pattern as the E. Now we can make a bar chord out of this shape as well. Check out this example. It's a barred up to the 7th fret. It's going to turn it into an E because 7 half steps above an A is an E, so now we have an E major chord instead of an A. Let's start at the bottom and go up 1 fret at a time and find these bar chords. So we have A on the open. Then on the 1st fret we have B flat. Then on 2nd fret we have B natural. On the 3rd fret we have C. On the 4th fret we have D flat or C sharp. 5th fret is D. Then on the 6th fret we have E flat. 7th fret is an E. 8th fret is the F. 9th fret is a F sharp or a G flat. 10th fret is a G. 11th fret is A flat. And then finally on the 12th fret we have A again. So it gets a little tighter on your hand the more you work up. One thing you'll have to do is kind of turn your hand so you can get each finger close to the bottom of each fret. You know, you don't want to be playing in the middle of the fret. You want to play on the bottom. And you really kind of have to use some tight finger motions to get your fingers tighter the further and further you go up the neck with this shape. So work it slowly. Try to play each note separately to make sure that each one is ringing clearly. Learn these bar chords from 0 to 12th fret, and then we'll learn another shape. Okay, a final shape you need to know to be able to find these major chords is a C. So we're going to play a C major scale in open position. It'll have a shift to the top. It looks like this. So there's your C scale. So here's the chord. As you can see at the end of the example, we have 1, a 3rd. So instead of having 1 to 5 straight, we got 1 to 3 because that E is the 3rd of a C. We have G as our 5th. So open G, then C on the B string. That's our octave. Then another 3rd on top. So, like the other examples, you want to be able to make this one with out your 1st finger. And now you have it free to bar the G and the high E string to make a bar chord. Take a look at this example right here. Here it is in a E position. So we have this C chord barred up to the 4th fret. And 4 half steps higher than C is an E. So now we have an E major chord. Let's go back and find all these. So we got a C chord on open. First fret we have D flat or C sharp. Second fret we have D, or D natural rather. D natural. Sixth fret, or the third fret bar rather, we have E flat. Then on the fourth fret here we have E. Bar on the fifth fret we have F. Bar on the sixth fret F sharp or G flat. Then on the seventh fret we have G. On the 8th fret here is A flat. Then on 9th fret we have A. Then on the 10th fret is B flat. On the 11th fret is B natural. And then finally we get back up to where we started on the 12th fret. We are 12 frets higher than we started, so we're back at C. Okay, a quick disclaimer. These bar chords are kind of tough if you're a beginner or even an intermediate player. They can be hard on your hand, so here's a few tips. Only pay attention to the strings that the bar is actually pressing down. So for instance, you know, on that A bar shape, like on the 7th fret, ask yourself, what strings is the bar really pushing down? It's not all of them, because that's what you have these 3 fingers right here for. The bar is only really pushing down the A and the E string. So focus the attention to those strings as you place the bar. The answer is usually not ever just more pressure. It's all about the placement of your finger. You know, you want to have an accurate placement of the finger as opposed to just mashing down the string harder if it doesn't come out and it's, you know, gets that kind of, you know, bad fret sound to it. You want it to ring nice and clear. The other thing you want to pay attention to is the straightness of your bar. You know, you have these little ridges in your finger, you know, like right there and there. And you want to be sure that the string doesn't slip into one of those little ridges. So you have to be sure and place your finger, you know, vertically to where the string misses those little ridges in your finger. And only you can know where that is, because every person's finger is a little bit different. For me, that means, you know, that much of a change between what I thought I should put my finger and where it actually goes. You just kind of have to wiggle it around until you get a good result, and then do it that way every time. Well, if you can't get the bar chords clean, there's good news. You don't really need to get them that clean, because we're going to look at some examples that just play 3 of these strings at a time. So these shapes will still be major chord shapes, but they'll be varied in their inversion and what member of the chord they start on. Let's look at a example real quick. Let's go back to the E kind of shape that we had. Remember the open E bar chord? Well, what if we were to take just the notes on the D, the G, and the B string? We would still have an E chord, and it would even be in what you call root inversion or root position. The reason it's in root because the lowest note is an E. So that's what that looks like. The next example is also an E chord. But notice it's kind of like that's part of that C chord shape that we made on the 4th fret. But we don't have to play that whole thing. We can just take part of it. Notice at the root of the first inversion chord, it's the first inversion because the 3rd is on the bottom. But the root of it, notice, is on the high string, on the top string of the shape. The next inversion is kind of like that A chord. But we only have to make just those 3 strings. Notice there's different fingerings for this one. You can use 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, and 3, or just bar 3 down, or 4, or 1 to cover them all up. They're all pretty useful. You may want to practice, making that shape, barring each finger, or making it with 2, 3, and 4, or 1, 2, and 3. It's an important shape. Then notice we can go back to where we started, 12 frets higher, and find that E shape again. Practice this example until you have command of each inversion, and you can navigate back and forth quickly to each one. Simple enough. Okay, let's look at some more of these 3-note triads that we can build out of these bar chords. Look at the first example. We have a kind of shape. Remember the A chord? We're going to take the top 3 strings of the A chord, and we have 1, 3, and 5 right here. You can make that with your second or your third and your fourth finger. Then we have the first inversion. Notice the third is on the bottom, the C sharp, up there on the 5th fret. And then we have the second inversion on the 9th fret there. And then we have the root inversion again, up there on top. Looks just like where we started. Once again, go through here. You can shift without too much effort. Okay, let's talk about sus chords, or chords that have suspensions. Now what a suspension is, it means it takes the third and moves it to typically the 4th scale degree. So you find the third in the chord and you move it to a half step up and you get a sus4 chord, or just a sus chord. Let's look at an example here. So there's our E shape that we had, and then a sus4. Notice the third, the G sharp, moved to the 4th of the scale, the A, and that became a sus4. Practice going back and forth between those two chords. We can also learn these in inversions. So here's that first inversion of that E chord. Notice now the third is on the bottom. So you can take the bottom note up a half step and get that sus chord. We can go up here and do it on the 9th fret. Notice the third this time is on the top. It's a nice sound. Get that under your fingers, and we'll learn some more. Okay, here's some those same sus chords, sus4 chords, on the top 3 strings. So you have notice the third was in the middle because we had 1, 3, and 5. We took the third up to the 4th and got that sus4 chord. Move down here to first inversion. Take that bottom note, which is the third, up a half step. And you get a sus4 chord there. Then this last form, the third is on the top. Take that up a half step, and you also get a sus4 chord. Be sure and learn all these. A quick note, you can find alternate fingerings for these, so the first form you can make with your 3rd and 4th finger. Just slide the 4th finger between the 3rd and the 4th, like that. You can make it with your 2nd and 3rd, and then just move your 4th and your 3rd finger. Alternate the 3rd and the 4th scale. Or you can do it with 1 and 2. There's plenty of ways to do these. This one on the bottom, you can use 1, 3, and 2, and have your 4th finger free to do the sus. Or you can make a little bar like this, kind of like you did in the C bar chord shape, and 3 can do the suspension for you. Okay, now let's look at some examples of some sus2 chords. Sus2 chords are different because, well, instead of moving the third to the fourth, we're going to move the third of the chord down to the second scale degree. So here's an example where we move the G sharp, the third, and this E chord down to the F sharp. It's a nice sound. Notice I kind of had to bar the 4th fret there with my first finger so I could get the B and the F sharp when I needed it. On the next shape, we can do the same thing. Notice the third is on the top. And then finally, I've got to make this last shape with my 4th, 3rd, and 2nd finger to start. That way I have the first finger payable for the sus2. It's kind of a difficult movement because your 3rd finger has to move by itself, and that's kind of a hard thing. It's hard to move the 3rd finger independently, so you want to work on this one a lot. And notice we can't do that down here in the root position in open because there's no F sharp to grab down here because the lowest note on this string is a G. That doesn't quite do it, does it? Alright, now let's look at some sus2 chords on the top 3 strings. So we have this sus2 with the A. Notice the third of the chord, the C sharp, goes down to the open B. That makes a nice sus2. The next shape is kind of difficult because you want to make it kind of like you did the last form of the last example with your 3rd, 2nd, and pinky. So your first finger is available to have the B natural down. Then up here you want to do the same thing. Be sure to have your first finger available. And once again the 3rd finger has to do the motion there, so it's a tricky motion. You want to practice that one. Alright, to gain some more mastery over these sus chords, now we're going to have examples that go from sus4 to the major chord, to the sus2, then back to the major chord. They make for nice little endings. Here's an example. Here's another. Another. Notice I kind of changed the fingering on that last one. Then right here I left my 3rd finger down and just scooted my 1st and my 2nd finger down to get the sus2 and the 5th of the chord. Just work those out nice and slow until you get some, confidence in how they sound and how they feel. Right, same thing, but on the top 3 strings. Notice on that last one, I started using 1, 3, and 2 there. Used the pinky for the sus4. And then I left my 3rd finger where it was and used 2 and 1 to go down to those lower frets. Okay, here's something kind of cool. Every sus4 or sus2 chord has another name. Here's an example. So we have this. Looks like an E sus4, right? But it could also be an A sus2, depending where you're going. So if you have a sus4 chord, it can also be called a sus2 chord, a fourth away from what you're calling the sus4. That's complicated. So if we have an E sus4, we go up a perfect fourth, E, F, G, A. It can also be a sus2. Here's another example. If E sus4, right? Or we can have A sus4 or A sus2. So it could either be E sus4 or A sus2. One more. Here's E sus4, or maybe it's A sus2. Some more examples. Here's a E sus4 or A sus2 maybe. Another E sus4, or just as easily A sus2. E sus4 or E sus4 or A sus2. So that's kind of neat. This helps if you're looking for a sus2 chord and you can't find one, and you know one, that's a sus4 chord. You can find a synonym for it. Okay, so now you need to have a test to see how well you know these inversions of all these chords and the major, the sus2, and the sus4. So you want to be able to know these chords in any key center. So, A sharp, B, C, just chromatically up the neck. You want to be able to start these chords on any of those, and you want to be able to change between any two or three of these chords. So what I have is in one pile, I have little sheets of paper that have, letter names like E, or D sharp, E flat, or F. And I have 12 of them because there's, 12 different notes. And in the other pile, I have a sus4, a sus2, and a major. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix them all up, and I'm going to turn them over, and I'm going to draw I'll do 2 at first because it's a little easier. I'll draw 2 letter names. So I got B and A. So I'm going to put those down here. I'm going to draw what type of chord I have for each of them. Let's see here. Okay, so now instead of just B, we got B major. And instead of A, we got A sus2. So I'm going to go on my guitar. I'm going to find 6 different places that we can play these 2 chords back to back. So we got, here's a B chord. Looks just kind of like the A shape, but up 2 frets. B. Then we got to go to A sus2. Let's see. We could do this. Notice you don't want to move more than 3 frets on any of these notes. There's a way to do it every time, I promise. Coincidentally, we could have also gone down that A sus2, right? That's a little further. Just notice that, but I had to move 4 frets. So I kind of like this one better. A little smoother. Let's do another example. Mix them all up again. Do another one with 2. Here's E. So I'm not cheating. E. And do another one. C. E and C something. Alright, let's see. We got E. E sus4. Okay. And another one going to C major. Okay, this time I'm actually going to take the time and try to do on 6 different spots. So we got E sus4. We've seen that one a lot. Right here. And C major, about right here. Yeah, just like the open shape. So E sus4, we can do that right here. C major, right there, kind of like that A bar chord shape on the 3rd fret. Here's the E sus4 and C. Do the same thing up here. E sus4 and C. E sus4, C. E sus4 and C. There you have it. Let's do an example with 3 of these now, make it a little more difficult. Mix them all up again. Alright, we got F something, we got an E flat something, and let's do another one. And A something. Oh boy, it's going to sound strange. Okay, let's see what type we have. F major, E flat sus4, and A sus2. Alright, so let's start with F major. Now we got E flat sus4. Boy. So we got an E flat right here, and then with a sus4. That's just 2 frets away, right? That sounds pretty good. Then go into A sus2 real quick. Wow. That's an interesting sound, isn't it? Alright, let's go on up. You can have F right here. E flat sus4. And an A sus2. That's kind of groovy. F major. E flat sus2. Then A sus2. Is that right? No, wait, it's not right. So we got F, E flat, sus4. That's what we needed. And then A sus2. Yeah. We'll try it over here. Let's see. So we got F major, E flat, sus4, and then A sus2. Okay, F major, E flat sus4, and A sus2. One more. We got F, E flat sus4, and A sus2. So this will produce some really neat sounds that you don't hear very often. It's a good exercise to kind of help test your proficiency in these major triad shapes and the sus4 and sus2 shapes. The key is to know that don't move very far. There's always one that's going to be just 2 or 3 frets or less away. Just hiding under your nose all the time. So don't be jumping up and down the guitar neck looking for one to the other. Try to stay really close. So, try to find the notes that are the root of the chords that you pick just on, these top strings. And once you find where you're going to start, look for one of those notes of the next chords, just kind of where you're at in the fretboard, just 3 frets up or down. If you do that, you'll be successful.